In 1850, a brutal storm tore open the dunes on Orkney's Bay of Skale, exposing rooms so perfectly fitted with upright flagstones that archaeologists called them Stone Age IKEA, complete with stone beds and cupboards, older than Stonehenge or the pyramids. The accepted story claimed Neolithic builders simply split local flagstone and stacked slabs by hand, but for decades nobody could explain how Skara Brae's razor-straight orthostats still stand, locked solid without mortar or metal. Now, the new scans from Historic Environment Scotland have revealed the answer, upending what experts thought possible and raising urgent questions about how much of this 5,000-year-old village can even be saved. What did the lasers see inside these ancient walls that changed everything? On the western edge of Orkney's mainland, where salt-laden winds sweep over the Bay of Skale, Skara Brae sits half-buried in grass and sand. The village forms part of the heart of Neolithic Orkney, a UNESCO World Heritage landscape that links stone circles, tombs, and settlements across the islands. Here, on this low coastal terrace, people built in stone 5,000 years ago, long before the first blocks of Stonehenge were raised or the pyramids took shape in Egypt. The houses at Skara Brae cluster close together, their thick walls sunk deep into mounds of accumulated midden. This is not just debris but a living shell. Ash, shells, bones, and broken pottery mixed with earth, layered over generations. The result is a semi-subterranean world, insulated against Orkney's relentless gales and sudden squalls. In winter, the North Atlantic pounds the shore just beyond the settlement, a reminder of the forces that both threaten and protect these remains. Occupation began around 3180 BC and continued for more than 6 centuries. Over that span, families rebuilt, refaced, and adapted their homes, leaving behind a palimpsest of stonework and domestic traces. The site's chronology is anchored by radiocarbon samples buried deep in the midden, charcoal, barley grains, and animal bones, providing a statistical backbone for dating each phase. These dates place Skara Brae among Europe's earliest stone-built villages, appear to the passage graves and ceremonial monuments scattered across Orkney's low hills. The choice of stone was dictated by the land itself. Old red sandstone, layered in flat beds across Orkney, splits cleanly into slabs. Wood was scarce and driftwood unreliable, so Neolithic builders treated stone as their primary building material, not just for walls, but for beds, cupboards, and hearths. The geology of the bay, with its ready supply of flagstone, shaped both the architecture and the daily rhythms of life here. Today, Skara Brae's houses still stand in a tight ring, their interiors remarkably preserved. Each house is entered through a low passage with upright slabs marking out spaces for sleeping, storage, and fire. The entire village, 8 visible houses and traces of more, was constructed with a shared logic: modular, repeated plans, adapted for comfort and protection. This enduring stonework, set against the backdrop of Skale's shifting dunes and the Atlantic horizon, anchors the story of how Neolithic Orkney's people built for permanence in a world of change. In the aftermath of the 1850 storm, William Watt, Laird of Skale, found himself the unwitting steward of a Neolithic settlement laid bare by the wind. Watt's first response was not archaeological, but practical. He cleared the exposed houses, shoveling away centuries of accumulated sand and midden to reveal stone walls and the strange, box-like interiors beneath. The work was piecemeal, stretching over nearly 20 years. Watt removed debris to floor level, rescuing stone tools, pottery, and beads for his personal collection at Skale House. But with no system for recording where objects were found, the spatial story of daily life at Skara Brae was lost. During these years, the village stood open to the North Atlantic. Winter storms scoured at the walls, and with little protection, fragile details were eroded or washed away. Watt's efforts to consolidate the ruins, resetting stones, filling gaps, and clearing passages, blurred the line between ancient construction and Victorian repair. In the absence of written records, it remains impossible to distinguish where Neolithic hands ended and Watt's began. By the late 1920s, a new chapter opened under V. Gordon Childe, whose approach was shaped by emerging professional standards in archaeology. Childe arrived with surveyors, notebooks, and cameras. Over 3 seasons, he mapped the visible village, drawing measured plans and section profiles that for the first time captured the layout of houses, passages, and drains in detail. His team dug test pits beneath floors, uncovering layers of earlier occupation and confirming that the visible structures rested atop deeper, older remains. Yet even Child worked within the legacy of Watt's clearances. Midden material, once packed between walls or under floors, had been removed or disturbed. Much was discarded as spoil, including organic remains, seeds, rope, and wood that today would be invaluable for dating and environmental analysis. Child's consolidation work, though more carefully documented, still imposed new interpretations on the site. He identified stone boxes as beds and upright slabs as dressers, embedding these labels in the reconstructed rooms. His search for roofing evidence, expecting piles of fallen stone, found little, leading him to favor organic roofs. Yet the absence of debris may simply reflect what was carried away or lost during earlier clearances. The records left by Watt and Child are scattered and incomplete. Watt's field notes, if they existed, have not surfaced. Child's unpublished notebooks reside in archives but lack the precision of modern digital surveys. As a result, today's researchers must overlay hand-drawn plans onto laser scans, matching orthostats and wall junctions to align the past with the present. Every scan of Skara Brae's walls, every measurement of orthostat alignment or drain gradient is filtered through this palimpsest of human intervention. The challenge now is to untangle what remains from what was remade, using digital tools to correct for the losses and assumptions embedded by generations of excavation. Old red sandstone dominates Orkney's bedrock, stretching in layered shelves across the landscape and breaking naturally into broad, flat slabs. These flagstones, scattered in outcrops and low cliffs from the Bay of Skyle to Vestra Fjord, offered the Neolithic builders a ready supply of building material, if they could extract and move it. The geology itself did half the work, cleaving stone along bedding planes into sheets just a few centimeters thick, but the rest demanded skill, patience, and teamwork. At Vestrafield, a quarry site about 6 kilometers from Skara Brae, the scars of ancient extraction remain visible. Narrow wedge slots cut into exposed faces, percussion marks from stone hammers, and faint traces of fire-reddened rock tell the story of how slabs were split free. Experimental archaeologists have shown that these methods, driving bone or wooden wedges into shallow grooves, sometimes after heating the rock with fire and then dousing it with cold water, can separate even the largest flagstones with surprising precision. The result? Slabs up to 2 meters long, their surfaces already flat and true, requiring little more than trimming before use. Once freed from the quarry, the challenge shifted from extraction to transport. Moving a 300-kilogram slab across Orkney's boggy ground and low ridges was no small feat. Sledges built from driftwood or whalebone, lashed with rope, formed the backbone of Neolithic logistics. Archaeological finds of shaped driftwood and whalebone near Skara Brae, along with archival records from Scale House, confirm that these materials were both available and valued. Pull tests by modern teams suggest that 6 to 12 people could haul a heavy slab on a wooden sledge, inching it overland along prepared tracks or natural contours. In winter, when the ground was frozen or slick with rain, the work may have gone faster, with the whole community turning out to help. The procurement of stone was not a solitary task. It was communal, episodic, and likely tied to the rhythms of the seasons and the tides that brought in fresh timber and bone. Each slab represented hours of coordinated labor, from quarrying and splitting to hauling and stacking at the building site. Ethnographic parallels and tool finds hint at specialized skills. Some hands better at reading the rock's grain, others at shaping or moving the stone. At Skara Brae, the uniformity of the orthostats, their matching mineral signatures and bedding plane alignments all point back to these coordinated efforts at the quarry and along the hauling routes. For the people of Skara Brae, stone was both a resource and a challenge. The landscape provided, but only for those who understood its logic and could muster the will to move mountains, one slab at a time. Every upright orthostat, every fitted flagstone in the village carries the memory of that effort, linking the homes at Skara Brae to the deep time of Orkney's ancient rock. The anatomy of a Skara Brae house begins with its walls, double-skinned, dry-laid, and packed with the accumulated refuse of daily life. Each wall consists of two parallel faces of flagstone separated by a core of midden, forming a structure between 50 and 90 centimeters thick. This design does more than resist Orkney's wind. It creates a thermal barrier, trapping warmth and dampening sound. The houses are set deep into the midden mound, their floors sunk below the surrounding ground. This semi-subterranean siting offers both shelter from the Atlantic gales and a stable, even temperature year-round. Inside, the logic of the walls repeats in miniature. Upright orthostats, flat slabs, cleaved from the same stone as the outer walls, stand as partitions, bed frames, and even furniture. The most iconic feature sits opposite each doorway, a dresser-like array of vertical slabs and horizontal shelves, always in the same position, as if following a template passed from house to house. Box beds, lined with orthostats and capped with flat stones, cluster along the side walls, separated by low partitions. Cupboards, storage boxes, and small hearths complete the interior, all built from the same modular kit of flagstone. These fixtures are not afterthoughts. Their standardized placement and proportions suggest a shared plan, a consensus on what made a house functional and familiar. The construction sequence is visible in the walls themselves. Foundation slots are cut into the compacted midden, sized precisely to hold each upright. Slabs are set vertically, their bases wedged with small packing stones or clay, then backfilled and tamped for stability. The outer and inner faces are built up in parallel, with the space between filled layer by layer with midden, ash, shell, bone, and earth, compacted to bind the skins together. In places, capstones span the gap, tying the two faces and distributing the load. The result is a structure that flexes and settles without collapse, its mass resisting both wind and frost. Not every house follows the same script. One building stands apart, lacking the familiar beds and dressers, its interior more open and irregular. Archaeologists call it the workshop house, speculating that it served as a communal workspace or a place for special activities. Its walls are just as thick, its orthostats just as carefully set, but the absence of standard furniture hints at a different rhythm of use, perhaps a space for craft, storage, or gathering beyond the routines of domestic life. The organization of space at Skara Brae reflects both technical ingenuity and social order. The double-skinned walls insulate and support, the orthostats divide and define, and the standardized interiors reveal a community invested in comfort, privacy, and continuity. Each house, though unique in detail, fits into a broader pattern, a modular logic shaped by stone, midden, and the shared experience of life on Orkney's Atlantic edge. Laser scanners first arrived at Skara Brae in 2010, carried in by teams from Historic Environment Scotland and the Scottish 10 project. Their goal was to capture every visible surface, every orthostat and passage, in a dataset accurate to the millimeter. Working against Orkney's unpredictable weather, the crew mapped the entire village with terrestrial LiDAR, recording not only the houses, but also the shifting dunes and seawall beyond. Each scan produced a dense cloud of points, billions in total, defining the geometry of walls, thresholds, and floor gradients in 3 dimensions. This digital record, refined over more than a decade, now serves as both an archive and a laboratory. The 2021 release of a high-resolution public model opened Skara Brae to anyone with an internet connection. Scholars, conservators, and the curious can now navigate virtual rooms, measure orthostat angles, and inspect wall thicknesses that had previously been accessible only to those on site. Repeat scanning campaigns have added a 4th dimension: time. By comparing scans from different years, researchers track subtle shifts, wall bulges, settling slabs, and even the advance of coastal erosion. These digital tools are not just for display, they are used to monitor the site's stability, to plan conservation, and to identify where ancient stonework is most at risk from rising seas and winter storms. Behind each dataset stands a team of specialists, led by Historic Environment Scotland's scanning engineers. Their work transforms Skara Brae from a static monument into a living system, measured, modeled, and watched for change. With this digital foundation in place, the forensic analysis of how the orthostats were set, stabilized, and maintained can begin in unprecedented detail. High-resolution scans now cut through Skara Brae's walls, exposing the hidden mechanics of Neolithic construction. At foundation level, orthostats stand anchored in slots carved directly into compacted midden or clay. Measurements from digital cross-sections reveal that between 20 and 40% of each upright's length lies buried below floor level, a ratio that balances stability with the effort of excavation. Packing stones, visible as dense clusters in scan slices, wedge the slabs tight within their sockets, immobilizing them against shifting ground. In some areas, faint traces of compressed clay or fibrous organic matter cling to the base, hinting at intentional bedding to cushion and level each slab. Surface microtopography, mapped at sub-millimeter scale, records the scars of setting and adjustment. Parallel striations and percussion marks cluster at slab bases, evidence of repeated test fitting, trimming, and chocking with small stones. Tool marks run perpendicular to bedding planes, confirming that slabs were split, not sawn, and then fine-tuned on site. Where orthostats serve as internal partitions, scans show their rear faces keyed into the inner wall skin, with midden tightly packed around them to absorb movement and insulate the room. Drainage channels, long assumed to be simple stone-lined trenches, emerge in 3D as precisely graded conduits. Floor gradients, measured in tenths of a degree, direct water toward the sea, with thresholds and capstones set to control flow and prevent backwash. The operational sequence, cut slot, set slab, wedge, tamp, and tie with wall packing, plays out in forensic detail. Each step, now measured, modeled, and verified, answers the central question: how did stone, midden, and human labor combine to build homes that still stand after 5,000 years? In 2021, Historic Environment Scotland released a high-resolution 3D model of Skara Brae, offering the most precise view yet of how its orthostats were set: 20 to 40% embedded in foundation slots, braced by midden-packed double walls. The scans confirm that Neolithic builders used local flagstone from Vestrafield, splitting and placing each upright without mortar or metal tools. Yet, the exact methods for raising the largest slabs and the original designs of lost roofs remain uncertain. Centuries of excavation, beginning with William Watt in 1850, have preserved much, but also erased some details. Today, digital archaeology not only tracks erosion and structural change, it enables new studies of Neolithic engineering across Orkney. The evidence is clear. Skara Brae's construction was planned, repeatable, and adapted to local conditions. As 3D models archive every stone, the site continues to inform both conservation and the search for answers still buried in the past.